So work, family, self, choose two. You can't have all three. That's what my boss told me 3 years ago. She proceeded to write those 3 words down on a piece of paper and push it across her desk to me and said, choose two. If you want to be really good, choose two. So being the renegade that I am, that was her title for me, not my own, I decided to submit my notice and go out, be fearless, and conquer all 3. I left my job, my comfy job in pro sports, and decided to go start my own social media company. I was going to go color outside the lines without crossing the line. So this was my first client, pretty big client, literally, Shaquille O'Neal. And we started experimenting. I'd helped him develop his social media presence, and it was kind of before its time, before social media made its way into the corporate world. So we just started experimenting, and I took to him one day this concept called random acts of Shaqness. This was a way to bridge the virtual world with the physical world, because his fans weren't quite sure if this was really him behind his own tweets, his own social voice. It wasn't me Shaqateering behind the scenes or ghost tweeting. It really was him. So I asked him, why don't you stand on a street corner and we'll tweet your exact whereabouts and then see what happens. This was before Gowalla, before Foursquare, all that stuff. So we did it. And then we did it again. And the first person to arrive would get tickets to the game the next night. And then we'd call a fan and buy him lunch, and random acts of Shaqness. Started to develop a process with this, and I noticed some trends of this innovation. It was, first we had intent, which was complete innocence. We just wanted to engage fans, and if you ask Shaquille, his #1 goal in life is to literally make people laugh. That's it. There were no endorsement deals behind this. And we had an idea, which is great, random acts of Shaqness. Everybody has ideas, though. We needed an influence. He has a lot of influence, thankfully. And at the time, he had a couple 100,000 followers maybe on Twitter, a couple 100,000 fans on Facebook, now has well over 6 million. But we had that influence behind us. And then we were inspiring. So we were showing the Shaquille behind the Shaq. Who is that person behind the personality? And these kind of surprise and delight random acts of Shaqness were working. It was inspiring for people to go explore social media and figure out what they wanted to do with it. This was about 3 years ago. So we were innovating. This was a time, we took this process and started to develop some best practices. This experimentation kind of grew, and the art of social media started to become more science. And I developed some formulas, and we were tracking this, measuring it. I started gaining a few more clients and a few more. Things were working. Influence was building. He was playing for the Boston Celtics at this time, this photo, and he tweeted, "I'm going to Harvard Square. Meet me there if you want." So he proceeded to pose like a statue, and for 30 minutes, fans showed up, hundreds of fans. At times, we had thousands of people show up. The media comes, and things were going well. 92 cities, I think, in a matter of a year, 204 flights, speaking around the world about measurement, and just living this fun life that everybody kept saying, wow, how exciting. I can't believe what you're doing this week or this week. And I was on a jog one day, and I was listening to a TED Talk, Simon Sinek, and he posed this powerful question of, if you don't know why you do what you do, how do you expect anyone to follow you? Yet, I have 1.2 million people following me on Twitter, and they've been following me for a while, day after day. I was asking myself, geez, here I am making really influential people more influential, really influential brands that I would just have died to work with when I was younger, making them more influential, but why? So there was a deficit. I noticed something missing here. So I started to seek this problem, and listening to the TED Talk, and it stopped me in my tracks, literally, because Simon goes on to say, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So the goal is not to sell to people what you have. The goal is to connect with people who believe what you believe. Okay, a little bit more information. So I'm talking to a friend, and he diagnoses my problem. I have a purpose problem. He's like, yep, you have a purpose problem. I had so much passion for innovation of other people's lives that my life was regressive. I wasn't really necessarily doing anything to innovate my own, and it was all applied to work. So I started thinking about this, eventually just become mentally exhausted. I couldn't remember my address, literally, and decided to do something about it. This is the time when, of course, the friends and family start saying, you need more balance, you need to slow down. The universe was screaming at me, red light, U-turn, something's going on here. And the sound of you need more balance was like fingernails on a chalkboard to me. There's no chance I'm going to revert back to a point of balance because that seems counterintuitive to innovation. And it seems like that infamous balance baseline means going back to a place that you were before, but we're always changing. So as human beings, it seems our point of balance is always shifting. So I thought, okay, I need to apply this innovation process probably to my own life. There's an idea. I'm not going to be balanced, though. I need to get back into integrity with my life and find my life compass. So I started making these small 5-degree turns and started with the intent once again. Added an idea, influence, inspiration, and innovation usually shows up at the end of that, so I had learned. So I tackled the big 3 first, the work, family, self. So work. Turns out that I had started working with people who didn't believe what I believed. So slowly started to navigate away from those people and shift toward those clients, partners, new relationships that really did have that level of integrity. Started to make those 5-degree turns once again, one by one. The next thing was family. I get this email from my mom, and she's like, hey, Dad was wondering why you haven't tweeted in over 23 hours. And then, I hope all is well, emoticon. And by the way, he has a request. He would like you to tweet at least every 8 hours. They couldn't keep track of me. They just would log on each day, a couple times a day, to figure out which city I was in, barely could find time to talk. And I realized I needed to be where my feet are. Here I am teaching all these clients, celebrities, athletes, corporate brands to bridge the virtual world with the physical world, but my physical world didn't exist. Like that phone was the boss of me, all hours. I have this brand new nephew, first in the family, and I found out, you know what, I'm seeing him more on Facebook than I've seen him in real life, and we technically live in the same city. That's a problem. Started taking 5-degree turns to shift. Then I realized the universe throws these 15-degree turns at you when you start this process. There's momentum and you start to gain ground. I had gone to the doctor and I just was like, I'm just feeling pretty tired, and they're thinking, okay, well, let's do some blood work. And I said, it's just because I've been traveling so much. And they're like, no, your white blood cell count is really low. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, it's because it's about 3 hours of sleep average, whatever. Now, it turns out I had a lump in my breast, the size of a golf ball. Missed that one. Pretty busy, just completely missed that. Started taking those 5-degree turns, finding the people to help me, but the first step was intent. Had to actually have the intention of becoming healthy. Because it turns out if a purpose problem goes unaddressed, it starts to manifest in your mind, your body, your soul, and eventually shows up in your physical health, I've learned. So then one night, another 15-degree turn is thrown my way. It was the evening of the Japan earthquake, and I was on my elliptical with my iPad, of course, because I was bored, perusing Twitter, and all of a sudden, the trending topics started changing. The earthquake, the devastation, it was happening live. It was late that night, actually. Turned the TV on. CNN is showing these semi-trucks that are being washed away. It was one of the most epic moments of my life that I was watching here live. I'm thinking, I've got to do something about this. It's the middle of the night, and I didn't sleep a week that night. Basically, decided, my intent is to help. Here's my idea. I'm going to try and use Twitter because I have some influence there in this reach of 1.2 million people. And it wasn't just me wanting to inspire everyone to help. Everybody was doing it. There was nothing special about what I was doing, trying to shift information from one place to another. Everybody was doing that. I just happened to have a little bit more ability to distribute and more reach. So It was literally one of the most impactful moments of my life. I sat there at my kitchen table with my dog by my side in the middle of the night and started to share information, retweet really valuable codes and translations and maps of when the tsunami was going to hit the outer regions, because there's a really critical period of time when we didn't know what was going to happen as a result of that earthquake. It was the middle of the night. So that's when I realized the world was innovating the way that we use the social media channel. And we can scale the act of good and the act of kindness if we choose to with social media, because there are no geographic boundaries. When people are being followed, they tend to be on their best behavior, and everybody wanted to help each other. So if you think about that, we are only bound by the speed, bound of scaling the act of good, by the speed of technology, by the speed of our own actions. It's pretty epic. So I started to apply that to my business, had some really influential individuals that we work with, and started to inject more purpose. And so the point is, you can have it all, you just have to define what your all is, and you choose whether or not you want to innovate your life. And the first step really is giving yourself permission to find that arrow of integrity, because it will point you to your North Star. Thank you.